5, so
That's
we're
okay,
gonna have to
sure.
share here
We
at
don't
some
care.
point.
You're fine. I
We're
brought,
trying to remember how many we have.
no, I have my subcommittee here tonight, so, my
Okay.
pool subcommittee.
There we go, okay.
Alright, so recorders are going, just, this is the Recreations and Parks Committee, it is 7:17 at 6:35 PM. We also have the pool subcommittee members here tonight, or at least 2 of the 3 so far, 3 of the 4. We are gonna see a presentation. Present though is Mayor Southard, Councilperson Martin, myself, Camera, McNamara is present, as well as Bruger, but they have stepped out of the room for a moment. We are gonna go ahead and start though, because we know we have a lot to cover tonight, so. All right, we'll let you guys go. So you may, just quickly, just for Abra, James, and Gina, they're part of the pool subcommittee. You may just want to introduce yourself real quick, just so they know who you are.
Yep, I'm Tim Schmalberger, Senior Principal with NKSK. This is Amy Taylor, who's our landscape architect on the project. And was Sarah coming tonight or not? Okay. And we had Sarah Richardson on our project team as well. And so for those of you who don't know of our firm NKSK, we've done quite a bit of planning and landscape architecture work around the city. We've probably done over 20 pools in the greater metropolitan area, from Columbus to Dublin, Bexley, Grove City, just number of facilities around. And so this effort here was to take a look at a master plan and try and get some handles on budgets and what the site could probably handle, right? And try and match that up with, with your needs to help start planning for funding, and then also for what year, right? And what are the logistics of replacing a pool. And for those of you who have not been through that process, most municipalities, they don't want to lose a season, right, for their pool. So a lot of these pools are turned over from, call it September 1 to Memorial Day. So they, sometimes they'll close the pool a week or 2 early. It just depends on the facility. And they'll tear it all out, start over, and have it open for Memorial Day, which this is what we anticipate this project would likely be once you choose to go forward with that. But this is the early planning stage of it, and to try and get budgets in place, realistic budgets with where the market is right now on things. And so what we've done is we've, from our first meeting and kickoff meeting, which we could certainly, we brought that presentation as well. If we want to revisit that, we certainly can. If you think it'd be helpful, we can certainly breeze through that. Otherwise, what we've brought this time is we've brought 3 schemes for the site. And so we just, the easiest way to try and get an accurate budget is to essentially try and lay out kind of a range of pools that, we heard from the kickoff meeting and the wish list, which this first sheet is really the wish list that was developed at the first meeting with Jason following up with it in writing. And so we've used this to craft the plans. And so what these plans will show is what fits on the site. The site, luckily, is fairly roomy compared to some of the other pool sites that we've done. And but so it's a balance, you'll see in here, of what we keep. Obviously, we've got a new baby pool that was just done, what, 1.5 years, 2 years ago. With that, because it was completely out. So you'll see that in these schemes being saved. And obviously the school's doing some improvements next door, which really don't have any effect on us, except there's a walk now that connects down the slope. Primarily I think for people to cut through, right, to get to the street, make it into the neighborhood, and back over to the school and stuff too. So we want to take all that into account. So the village engineer, Mike, was able to share those plans with us that had been submitted to the village from that. So we try to take all that into account, and we'll show you the 3 schemes, and then we'll talk through a cost estimate. We've estimated the middle scheme of it, but to be quite honest, the dollars don't vary that much between all three schemes that we're going to show you, right? It's just, we're at a point where, we're kind of at the threshold, but we can talk through that. So the easiest thing is just dive into the plans and show you kind of what we're thinking. So with that, I'll have Amy kind of walk us through option 1 here. So.
All right, option 1. Oh, it looks better from your angle than mine. All right. My angle. I was like, it doesn't look like anything. All right, option 1.
And you have obviously you have hard copies there, so it'll be a little easier to read.
Follow along, yeah. The idea for this first option was to keep all of the buildings near the parking.
No, they snuck in at the door. We were literally standing in front of the door. New SRO was out there, we were chatting with them.
Yeah, I got to meet Officer Corley.
Look, we're just talking in the scheme 1. Looking into making your parking spots a little more solid, we were able to do 80 parking spaces in this configuration, keeping the island as it is and adding to it in order to allow for spacing that is permanent. And then it allows us a 15-foot drive in order to get any kind of pool materials up to the maintenance building. It also allows space for food trucks to come and be a part of the site when wanted. This scheme, all of the bodies of water for the pools are linked together. So we have one for the most part. Splash pad is the exception. This is one system with one body of water. So you see them linked along the top edge there. It has the pools that you asked for, the lap pool, the dive pool, and the family pool with a 0 entry, as well as accommodations for slides, and diving boards, and competition in the lap pool.
Hey, remember from our first meeting, when you have separate bodies of water, it requires separate pumping systems, right? Now, granted, they're smaller, but there's economies of scales, in swimming pools. So if you link all the water together, then it's really one pumping system. Now, some of the issues that can occur with that is you happen to have an accident, but you have a separate baby pool already. So most of the accidents are going to happen in the baby pool, right? But you could have an accident in the family pool, 0 beach area, right? That happens. And when that occurs, there's a delay where you got to shut the pool down and it filters, right? With that, each municipality kind of handles that per the health guidelines, in that. So that's just one thing to kind of keep in mind. I think over the years we found that yes, it is a savings, but sometimes it's advantageous to have separate bodies of water in that. So we'll show you, a couple schemes where they're all connected like this one, and others where they're somewhat separate, within it. And I think the unique thing about this site, or this site plan, is that you can see the driveway that that leads to the mechanical building, which is the building to the left. And the gates are out by the parking lot. So let's say you did want to have food trucks, right? For that, you could pull them inside the gate, close the gates, and it's secure from that end. And so we like that aspect of of this plan. We thought that could be pretty useful. Then you're not having to really fund, right, or run a full concession. If you have a big event, et cetera, right? It's just another approach to it. When you have 2 food trucks, there's room for 2. It may only need 1, right? So it's something to just think about from a programmatic standpoint. So we were trying to explore the edges here. What could the site handle? And because you've got some decent acreage, what we found is these schemes is you can handle quite a bit. We also have chosen not to change the parking to any great degree, right? Just because it's gonna add dollars, right? Your gravel base is really already there. And we talked about, the desire to get it paved, right? So you get more parking stalls and people parking between the lines instead of kind of wild, in the gravel. So your parking count will go up. We're roughly showing, 81 stalls here?
Yep.
In that, and, so we lengthened the center island and, tried to maximize it. We didn't really push out towards the residential properties on either edge, although you could, right? If you wanted to get more parking in there, that's something that we could do. We chose kind of just to stay within the boundaries at this point, just from a dollar standpoint, just trying to keep it simple from that. We've also, one little aspect that you'll see that we've carried through is, the vertical, call them I-beams, right, that hold up the roof of the current structure, okay? We've kept the ones out front, and we've kept 2 of the ones in the back.
Kind of like
So-
the signature iconic.
Kind of a
Yeah.
little, exactly, right? And so, we think that could be kind of neat, especially if we, had some old pictures on the wall and they could see the original, the original structure and what held it up. And here's those same things, right, going forward. So we're trying to leave a little bit of history in here, with that. Certainly a nice historical picture of the building hanging on the wall in black and white would, do one, on the way in. Well, yeah, see, the building used to sit right there, right? It tells a nice story, with it, from that end. And then we're also showing the event center, right, which you see here as well, as this facility that could go year-round from that. And so it's got its own separate entrance. It also has indoor entrance, right? So if you're running a pool party or a birthday party, kind of a thing, right? It's it's a rentable room kind of thing. And so Grandview City Pool has that. Dublin Pool has that. There's a few other pools around that are have that kind of facility on it. And so we think that's pretty unique. So you'll see a couple different locations for where the mechanical building is for the pools versus where the bathhouse event center. But we think the bathhouse and event center can be connected so that the restrooms can be shared, right? Depending on how that's actually designed. Just trying to think, how can we save plumbing, make some efficiencies, and all that, right? And so we've shown it, very generically here, but square footage wise, these are about the needed square footage to support the mechanical, to support the bathhouse, and then the event center that I think that we got the square footage from you guys, what you want to do with that. So we saved the basketball court. Each of these schemes, I think we've saved in almost all of them. It's there. Sure, it probably needs a new topping or a color coat to it, but why? Let's save it, right? From that end. And so that's kind of scheme 1. And you can see on the plan there, you can see the stadium track, kind of footprint as it impacts. Yes.
Is the bathhouse also the office entryway then?
Yes.
Okay, that was said and I missed it, I apologize for not being here on time.
Yeah, how we envision it in this scheme.
Yeah, because I figured there's the
Is
outside.
this western edge here? Call this like a covered porch breezeway walk-in, right?
That's all we have now, it seems to work,
Gates
as far as I know,
comes
it
in.
works fine.
Yep. And, visible out, right, so you can see, manage people.
Okay, so this is probably a dumb question, you might have answered it, but I know these are just generic, but if we were having a party in the middle of winter or something along those lines, how would they how do they get to the bathroom? Is it still in the main building and would we be able to?
We think that there'd be a door inside the event center.
Okay.
That connects to the, to the restroom.
Okay.
And so this would be part of the architecture when you're ready to go,
Okay.
right? We showed the overlap, showed the connection, is it through a hallway?
Okay.
Usually the restrooms would have 2 doors,
Right.
right? So if there's, like if there's an event going on in the summer, then the restrooms being connected would make
Right.
sense.
Well, the restrooms in the summer wouldn't be that big, but we're only open 3 months. So if, I'm not saying people need to use it in December, but if somebody wanted to use it late September or early May, and kinda wanted the outdoorsy, like, we have the community building, but if somebody wanted to use
Right.
some of the grassy area or whatever, because it is nice in May,
Right.
would they have access to a bathroom and all of that? Cause
Yes.
obviously right now,
I think you would want that.
yeah, absolutely,
Yeah, I think you would want that. So
Okay.
that would be for the architect to figure out when he designs.
how to make
the
it work,
actual
okay,
structure, right? So that's just, I put that on your program list.
okay,
Right? And it could be as simple as, maybe there's just two small restrooms that's attached to it, but they share the plumbing wall. And you don't heat the whole bathhouse, you just heat those two restrooms.
Right.
And then in the summer,
Right.
maybe they expand into the larger
right,
restroom, or bathhouse area, right? It can kind of, work either way. I think that's a
Okay.
design part that the architect would be challenged with based on how you would like to see it run.
right, and I don't know, I'm just, yeah,
Yeah,
it was just
that's-
one of those things that like, if you,
Excellent point.
we only have 3 months that it's,
Right.
that
I
that
just don't
whole
think it-
area is
I just don't
open.
think it's gonna get used in the winter at all for that.
I don't know about the winter, I'm thinking more
Or
April,
even-
May.
Even April, May,
Yeah,
you either have the pavilion or you have the community building that are already set up for it.
Yeah.
Cause that event lawn is very small when you look at where that's chopped off from.
It might be, yeah,
That is about from here over in the existing pool,
yeah.
which is like half of that.
Half of what it
big-
is now.
Half of that big lawn with nothing at it. Now, the bathrooms would be nice, cause you don't have bathrooms at the shelter house and courts.
right,
But you will have bathrooms at the community center if you're doing an event.
Yeah.
Like, that's, I
Yeah.
don't know, I'm now already looking at ways to say like, well, we don't need that, that'll save
Okay,
us some.
let's keep going
Sorry,
right now.
Sorry
Yeah,
about that, Jason.
And that kind of detail is typically when you start your actual pool process.
Right.
But it helps you develop that program.
right,
Right, so if you capture all that, right, how you think you want it to work, that just saves time on the beginning part of the next process, right? So that's why jumping into detail like this helps. It helps,
Right.
it helps further the program from that. So that's why we're going. Okay, any other questions on scheme 1 at this point?
No.
Okay, let's go to scheme option 2. Okay,
Option 2, tilted the parking lot a little bit differently, but in the end, still ended up with 80 spaces, so it's the same amount of spaces. However, this scheme introduces a drop-off area. This scheme also saves all of the iconic pillars. And there's the idea that this is a lawn area where possibly we could do the shade sails between those iconic pillars.
That'd be cool.
Making it a nice lawn space for the facility. In this scheme, the event center is near the parking lot once again, and the bathhouse is separated. But in this case, we kind of utilize what started as a drive now, but expanding it so that your food trucks can go in and be a little more central to the pool area. The other advantage to this one, we've separated the competition and kind of deeper water from the family pool water. And there's a lawn in the center with a splash pad at the end to have that kind of lawn space in between. Again, we save basketball court and I think that's it on this one.
So,
Yep.
the family pool zero entry one, is it bigger or smaller? It looks wider, but
It's in this, than scheme 1.
yeah, but
I
it
believe
says it's smaller.
wider. It's wider in this scheme, because it's also accommodating our slide.
but a chunk of it is taken out because of the slide, right? In order to try to
Okay.
manage the
Yeah,
size
yeah.
of water, right? So you'll see, like, in all these pools, you'll see different options,
Gotcha.
right? And so as you get into it, you'll probably wanna mix and match at some point as you start to get going.
Right.
So we're trying to give you some different looks of how
Right.
you combine, can be more efficient with
Right.
water.
The other thing I wanna ask, cause it's gonna apply to both of these, maybe all of them, is you talked about one filter or pump for everything. Does that include the splash pad? Is that all one pump? Or
Splash pads are always separate.
it's always its own? Okay.
It's treated like a separate body of water.
So in the scheme 1, we're talking about 2 pump systems plus the existing baby pool.
Correct.
And in this second one, we're talking about 4 total
Correct.
with the baby pool. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay, thank
Yep.
you.
Yeah. And from a site organizational standpoint, on this, what's interesting is, see how the family pool, zero bathhouse, this is like the family side.
Yeah,
Then this here is, obviously, if there's a swim meet, and then the dive pool tends to be the older kids, teens, et cetera, right? And so we've always found that, and especially like if you're having a swim meet, in the evening or late afternoon, the entranceway, they flow through and to it, but you could basically rope this off if you were having a sanctioned event back here,
Okay.
and it doesn't affect the rest of the pool.
okay,
Right? It can run just like normal. Like the daily patrons are not affected. The lawn area, what's nice is it separates, the more competition type pool from the family pool. It also gives a place, within the pools to, for laying out, right, instead of being, to the
Seen them already.
south. It just enables you to do that. The slide, in this one, we pulled the inboard of the pool, and we're showing you splashdown slides just because those seem to be more popular. People like to
Yes, that's
Right.
come off into the water
Into the water.
versus coming off into a long run out, like you've been to the ones where, the water's deep at the end, but then you step out of the slide and you're
Special
really on
sports
deck.
stadium costs $2
I mean,
billion
it's
to
fun,
build
but it's not that fun,
anymore.
right? So
And
we've
they're fancy.
shown all
$2 billion.
splashdown slides in here where you drop into the pool.
yep,
From that. The slide area also with the large steps are a nice area to teach swim lessons. Because there's typically a rope that goes across here, right, that keeps that separate. And, the kids and swimmers can sit here while they're being instructed out here, either one by one or however many instructors you may have. So, that's a good dual use on that. So this here, we kind of pulled the deck apart, right? So it doesn't look like the sea of deck and water. It's got a green space in it. That kind of breaks it up because your site allows that. And we swore up and down that there was some kind of a pedestrian connection back here. But when you look on the
so,
mapping, there's.
so
Just having that
we just
conversation.
had this conversation on a previous meeting.
Yep,
There's an easement through there that the village owns for a future walking path.
Well, it
We
doesn't
just
show
don't
up
have
on
it
the
in there.
plats.
Nope, it's not,
It doesn't show up on any of
Nope.
the county plats.
yeah,
So
So-
we didn't make any connections because,
it's okay,
yeah, so in all these schemes, we basically fenced
right.
the property right
Right.
to
Yep.
the edge.
I
right?
think you're
Just to
fine, I
say-
mean, I think that's a simple adjustment.
Well,
Yeah.
and isn't
Yeah,
that the
that bridge
current,
can be
isn't that the
crossed.
current fencing that
Right.
is
Yeah.
fencing it? Yeah.
Right, your current fencing cuts across here,
Yeah, cause it's
Yeah.
bigger
Right.
now.
and you make this
Oh.
open area.
Oh,
Right.
gotcha,
Yeah,
yeah.
we're going into the open area now.
Right, so
Gotcha.
we're in the
Oh,
open
yeah,
area.
we are, we're taking,
So
where we were
choose
thinking of
to-
putting a maintenance shed at one point.
Yes,
Yeah.
cause this one
Okay, cool.
does too.
So later on, if you
Yeah.
choose to take advantage of that easement and leave the open part, then we would probably basically pull everything back east to still leave that little open space. I think you have flexibility.
On the family pool, what's the depth on those? What, about 3 feet?
It's usually about 3.5 feet.
About 3.5
It goes from
feet.
0 to 3.5,
Right.
right? That's usually the range.
Road right here. That's ours. There's two behind this house. is-
Useless water, but I'm not gonna be in there.
That
During normal
pool,
pool
you
hours,
know,
this will just be open for adults to hang around and
That's what I was
screw off
thinking.
in.
Putting us close to where
That's
they're
what I thought.
using it.
Okay, I had to ask you a question.
Yes.
Which one is your personal favorite out of all these?
Well, we haven't shown you 3 yet.
I know,
It's always gonna be number 3.
I don't know. Well, yeah, we'll see. This is the one we estimated, for cost.
Like one better.
Because we think it's a nice middle of the road.
number
approach
2,
to it.
yeah.
This is
But you
the-
said you think they're all about the same cost wise, right?
Yeah, they basically, if they varied about $300,000 between them, so if we need to go lower, then we have to squeeze the water down. So if you look at the bottom of these sheets, it, we're
said
talking
to
about
turn to
square
3
footage,
already?
right? This is
Right.
what you have
He said 3
today,
is what we use
Right.
the
this is
estimate
what
on.
this shows, and this is the percent increase,
Right,
right? Just to kind of give you an idea, right? I think you could probably look at it and say, well, do we need to go up in water? We know we're short in family water. right now. We're severely short family water.
Right.
So that's where most of it is spent,
I don't think
is in
kids.
buying family water. Which is that 0 to 3.5 to 4 foot max, right?
Okay.
And then we counted the splash pads in there too. If you pull the splash pads out, it's actually less. But again, we're trying to balance dollars, right, the site, capacity, all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And now granted, this is master plan level, so we're kind of taking you a little bit into the weeds just to help you develop your program, a little deeper,
Yep.
right, and think about it.
No.
So when you are ready to pull the trigger to move forward,
Right.
you've got a pretty good programmatic listing and size, right, that you're trying to hone in on, right? And so this is normally the process that we'll do at the very beginning of a pool project where we're gonna take it to construction.
Okay.
So we just kind of moved it all up just because your site's here, your program for the most part. Let's just see what the site can provide for us. Right. Okay, let's go to, well, and one thing here, you notice how the buildings kind of slid from the front and slid up the side here, right? We kind of put backs to backs here, for the most part of the school.
Right.
This makes it a bigger service drive here, and the food trucks can obviously, go in there as well.
And do you
We kind of like
really-
that, but, and the bathhouse is not connected to the event center in this one. So you'd have to replicate your restrooms for the event center. Now granted, it may only be just a single restroom is likely what it would be,
Right.
right? But then you're not trying to connect buildings. It gives you a little more flexibility in your structures. And as you'll see in the estimate when we show you, the two most expensive things are the pools and the buildings. Those are your main
Right.
dollars.
Right.
Break out. Okay, let's go to, let's
So it's not
go
the
to
mulch.
3.
I don't know, I thought it was. $160,000.
Go ahead, you're good.
3 is a little bit of what we learned and liked from 1 and what we learned and liked from 2, and just trying to have one last look and configuration of things. Parking lot, we still got our 80 spaces, didn't change that too much. Again, our bathhouse and our event building are connected, so you can share restrooms. And then we pull the pool equipment building back out to the edge in this one. Once again, allowing room for your food trucks to come in. Again, this one's a little bit closer to our pool space as opposed to the first one where they were kind of out on the edge. This one, we catered to the event building just a little bit more, adding a patio for the event building on the end. And this may or may not be the most amount of event lawn.
Give it a second.
Maybe second, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Although you're already saying it's too small.
Well, too small to make it something in the winter worth going out to do an event. Not too small for, oh, this is an extra space,
Right.
plus we have all this when the pool's open during the summer.
Right.
So this one splits up, we have our 4 pumps for the 4 bodies of water again. Again, it keeps our family pool separated from our competition in lap pools. Kind of makes it efficient in the center for, instead of lawn, it's more deck for you. And we saved 3 of the iconic posts in the back, which could give us some flexibility with a little extra lawn space there. What am I missing, Tim?
And this one, you'll notice, look how close together the Zero Beach and the baby pool are in this one,
Yeah.
right? That's closer,
Yeah.
right? So those tend to be the same users, right? So we flip the baby, or the family pool around, so the Zero Beach is near the baby pool. Baby pool's fenced, right? So, and it would remain fenced, right? Just for, controlling, so no one gets away, right? Just because of the proximity of the deeper, lap lanes.
Yeah.
These are closer.
the slide we pushed to the back. And we, again, so in this scheme, we made it, it's connected to the family pool, but it's its own drop zone from that end. Could it be incorporated, within the family pools? Yes.
I like the idea of being
So,
So this one's probably a little more compact.
Yeah.
yeah,
It's got the biggest splash pad, right? I think what's like, Dublin had a splash pad in their pool that they redid, and they just upgraded it. But it's a pretty good sized splash pad. So when it's rest period, splash pad gets real busy, because they don't close they don't close that. And so it really just depends on, does the splash pad want to be a major feature, or do you want it to be a minor feature of the pool? From that end, or is it something that's completely different somewhere else, right? You don't have to have a splash pad, in pools. A lot of pools do it, just to add variety, right? To the aquatic experience. And we've shown you all different kinds of sizes. I mean, you can do splash pads that are, size of a quarter of this room, to some that are a lot larger.
Excuse me, the town I grew up in had a splash pad in one of its parks, and again, it was some years ago, but there were very frequently problems with it. I'm just wondering what mitigation factors are we building in that the splash pads won't become, gigantic logistical and financial headaches?
Yeah, well, it's gotten a lot better, as far as equipment wise now. So they're much more reliable. And so, I don't know if this makes you feel better or not, City of Columbus is actually doing less pools and more splash pads. They're moving away from pools, and the pools they are doing are smaller than what the ones that they've pulled out. Right, so a lot of it is maintenance, staffing, right? So they're trying to cut down on that. And you're seeing a lot of communities do that. Now, you can get splash pads that are, think of Zumbizi Bay, right? Where you've got dumping buckets and everything else, not necessarily in a pool, but on a surface, right? So as long as you get away from the standing water,
I hate those things.
then it's a pretty simple system from that.
Are the chemicals different? Like, do you still run the same types of chemicals in a splash
You gotta treat
pad?
it the exact
Okay,
So it's still pool water, then that
same way.
simplifies
It's still
things.
pool water.
it is still, okay.
Yeah, and the only time you can get away from that, and not many cities will do it, is if you're throwing the water away. In other words, the water goes in, hits the drain, goes to the sewer.
Right, because you can recirculate them now or something.
Sure,
Okay,
right, but it's just like pool water. It'll have to have a tank, right? Since you don't have a pool, a body of water to store it, that
Right.
amount in. So there'll be a tank that goes with it
right.
from that end. So they're just as much as a pool, they just don't have standing water.
I think it's one of those things, you either love it or hate it. You're either one of those people that likes it or for your kids, or you don't.
And is there a reason the existing pool equipment building is being demolished in all of these plans and couldn't be saved?
Yeah, we had Tim Patterson come out, look around, and, we gotta start over. We just have to.
It was too small.
It's too small. It's not gonna be in the right spot, for these plans. Just because we think you need to flip stuff around. And in pools, it's like, there's a point where it's best to just replace everything. Just start new. Doesn't mean that building has to be super nice. I mean, it could be a block building. Like Hilliard's pools are just a block building with a real simple roof on it, and they'll paint murals on the side, right? Keep it real simple. It's utilitarian, right? And then you spend your money like on your front entranceway, your bathhouse, and your event center as far as a exterior finish, right? Something like that. That's how we would try and balance that. Plus, the current new pools like to have the pumps submerged, right? So they're in a pit. So you walk in the room and the floor is 4 foot down and the pumps are all there. So that way the pumps, the piping as they come in from the pools are what they call flooded, right? They're full of water. So you never have any priming issues, right? The pumps are always self-primed because they flood in there. And so almost all new pools are built that way, as far as your mechanical rooms. So because that is not like that in there now, you'd have to tear the whole floor out to try and save it, and at that point, you might as well start over.
any way and tilt this over a tiny bit.
Because you're not gonna use it, what he's talking about is cheap.
I think it's just the,
Dropping everything.
I think it's just the nostalgia of it.
Homage to the original design
You see what I'm saying?
those pillars were like an iconic
That's
symbol
what I was
in a
wondering.
sense of that.
Probably cool. I mean, definitely.
I don't know if we're just like, redesigning them to kind of look at, that's a little,
There could be
Yeah, we
concessions.
think it's something pretty unique.
yeah.
So we've kind of embraced it in here to see, could we make it work? You could also decide, we don't want anything to do with it, right? And if you tore them out, then what you would do is your buildings would probably slide to the front.
Off the top.
And you'd walk between the event center and the bathhouse, would be the breezeway.
Now, I wanna ask you a question, I'm kind of putting you on the spot here, and there's a reason for it, and we'll get to that later, this is kind of for everybody in the room.
Yeah.
Out of all these three designs, which one is your favorite and the reason why? behind it? And that's kind of for everyone, that way everyone kind of gets an idea where you kind of at in
Yeah.
design, and that way, you know what I mean, we kind of, I don't know.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, so let's work backwards here. So if we start, with three, we like this flipped because it gets these two uses closer together, right? At this point, it's all about where are people needing to be at? How do families manage multiple age children, right? And so we like this relationship. We like the pool and the dive together. We didn't really show you also where you can separate the dive as a separate pool, so it's not connected.
Right.
But this little connector here is, it's next to nothing, to be quite honest, and it saves you a pumping system and piping, right?
Plus people can swim around.
Right, and your deck, see, when you get, more than two, three rows of, chairs and umbrella and stuff, the deck gets big, right? And so, the pool that I've noticed that has the, I'll call it the world record size of deck is New Albany. And if you go out there, you'll notice that they kind of went crazy on the deck. And we're like, much like your pool, you can put your chairs in the lawn. In fact, it's probably preferable because it's less hot, right? So the deck really should just serve the pool. So whenever decks get, like this size, then, it comes off as, as a lot of hardscape. Go to two there. So two takes and puts green space in between it to cut the decks down. But it acts just like a deck, right? That's a flat piece of lawn, you can put your chairs on, you can lay towels out on it, right? And so we like this. Like this is more like a pool than a park.
Could you like
There's
put
football.
sails
That's what I
in
wanted
or
to
like
see.
keep
That's
people
what I
in
would like to
shade
do.
perhaps, or is that like?
You can, yep, you could put shade sails, in
Maybe you
this
could make
area.
the lawn come
We've
around
got
this
it in
way.
this area, so where the current building sits right here, between all these columns,
Yeah,
we made that a big green space. So when you come by the pool, you're looking over green space to the pool. You feel like you're entering a park and not necessarily a paved pool space,
cool.
right? So the green, right, is obviously all around, but it also comes in like this. It helps break the pool up.
And how
If that gives you
difficult,
more room.
how difficult on this, or number one, which is very similar to this,
Yeah.
would it be to flip the dive pool to the other side of the lap pool, so adults are in the corner doing their lap, and I'm looking at number two, I think, right now. So the adults are against the grass wall of the thing, and the kids are going from kid area to dive pool without running past the laps. You wanna see what I'm saying? Just flipping the lap pool with the dive area.
Like
How
this.
hard would
Yep.
that be?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, you would have to fill in whatever, you'd have to have more grass or more deck, I guess, underneath. Whereas currently the lap pool,
Yeah, then this green space would maybe be an L.
yeah.
Sure.
Cause kids who wanna play in that are also gonna wanna dive, give them
Yeah.
a short thing, a
Yeah.
short run instead of running the.
Yeah, we've always put the dive area at the edges, because that's typically where the bad language occurs. Just an observation.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I've never heard any kid.
How could that be? But you could easily do that, and you could, and you could.
Yeah, I didn't think that would be much fun.
An L green space, sure, sure.
What, obvious questions though, depth of the dive pool is 12 and a half feet?
Yeah, 12 and a half feet.
And it's the whole length of the pool?
Whole thing.
From end to end, okay.
Yep.
Lap pool, is it deeper on one
Yeah,
side?
on the starting block side, it has to be a minimum of 5 foot depth.
Okay,
They typically like to go a little more. And then if you get shallow at the other end, but then you can't have blocks on the other end.
right,
But if you're not running like an intense, swim program in the summer, then you typically don't need blocks on both ends.
right,
You
okay.
just have on one end.
And then,
5 to 6, right? 5
Family
on one side, 6 on the other.
During the day, that's what it would be.
yeah,
5 is the
yeah.
minimum depth
I
for
mean,
blocks.
if we could get away with
So
it.
you could go down
I
to
already
about
wrote it down,
3.5
it's
to
half
4.
Well, I just didn't know, where we're at right now.
With six lanes, we
Yeah, it's
currently
deep on that
have that
end.
back
Yeah, I thought
part.
it was like-
Basically, it's
Oh,
that.
yeah,
But I think that's a
because your
4.
dive well's there.
I'd say, yeah.
With
And
six,
what's
you could
the,
have two
what's
that
the
are
depth of the
constantly
family pool at the
always-
A lap
deepest?
pool.
Always
Deepest
lap
part,
pools, and then the
usually
other 4 for
3.5
people to mess with.
And that would be the same with
Because if I
the
went there, I
slide
would be in
area,
this
right,
pool.
3.5?
Correct.
Okay,
Absolutely.
And never in the
Right.
same.
And so the 0, right, then goes down, and then it kind of tops out at 3.5 feet, so you can, float around and still have your hands on the bottom, stand up.
It's the
The
most
Athens
useless.
pool we did, the family pool with the 0 to that depth is by far the you hardly see the water, in that pool.
That's where a lot of kids are gonna be with their toddlers or even a little bit older.
You get a mix.
Yeah, you get a
Right,
big
you
mix
get
of that.
full mix. Yeah,
Now, if we have an adult pool, I'm sure that'll be used a little much,
right.
which is gonna be the lap pool minus 2 lanes.
Jason, which ones do you like the best and yes, and
Uh,
why?
I
guess-
kind of gravitate towards 2 and 3, a little more than 1.
There's no right or wrong, I'm just kinda
No,
curious.
I like that that in 3, the family pool is turned different. I
Yeah,
don't know
turn,
why,
yeah,
I like that.
yeah.
There's things I like about all of them.
So,
That might be good for kids not running straight into,
Except for the
Yes.
entryways here,
oh, it wouldn't matter, cause they wouldn't do it
entry
either.
by
Yeah.
the
They
dive?
wouldn't do
and they
it
would try
either.
to jump in. Here, if they run up, they're
Is this
running
the
into where they
entry?
can't jump because
Right.
it's 0.
There's no, it doesn't look like
I'm gonna go
there's
straight in.
stairs, so I'm like, it's just not
All this means is that these two pools are connected,
Okay,
and this is 12 feet deep, and this is 5 foot deep.
okay.
And so that transition,
So-
the state code only allows you to slope the bottom at a certain percentage, right?
So if I
So the
wanna swim
entrance-
laps and can't use a ladder, for example, and I need an easier transition into that water, and there are kids diving and I can't get through the dive pool to make my way
Well,
over to the
there
lap
would be
pool.
ladders for sure. out of
We,
the lap.
we have lots of
We have
people
lots
who
of people with
can't
bad
use
knees who
ladders
can't
with
use
bad
ladders.
knees.
Then we would want to put in, like if
So,
you look at these
Like
schemes,
this one,
like, yeah.
yeah, like
Like, see
here,
this?
going into the
Okay.
lap pool is
Right.
great,
So if that's the case, we would want to add that to, to the lap pool.
And that can be added
Yeah.
to any of these plans.
Right, any of these plans.
Just thinking them up, you'd
Yeah, no, absolutely, no, I was thinking the same
I
thing.
can think of one.
So-
And here, I'll point out one last thing, because there's been a lot of questions about the lap pool. The lap pool on the block side being 5 foot deep, right, that's where you kind of get the water like this,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And it's hard to use.
Like here,
No, it's, I'm 4
Yeah.
on my driver's
More like
license, but really
here.
like 5'3". So I feel her pain.
Yeah, so, if you're not doing starting blocks on both sides, you can bring the lap pool up to a 4 foot depth on the other end. So then you're gaining family water in a different pool, right, which may enable you to shrink the water overall if you make that choice on the lap pool.
Yeah,
And
okay.
it makes the lap pool more usable.
Like a permit really good plan number 1, just because they're connected and I know there's 2 pronged pumps. But I also like this idea of being separated, because it kinda has like the kid section and the adult
Yes.
section, which is
Yes,
awesome.
yeah, it's like different rooms.
Yeah.
Within the pool area, right? And so, most of the pools that we do end up being that way. Somewhat separated by either a green space or just how it's set up.
I really like how this is number 3, I think, or is this number 2?
That's 2.
I like how you have this, because this is kind of becoming an eyesore in the middle of the construction.
Right.
So it's nice to kind of visualize everything
Right.
this away,
house.
Far away from
Yeah.
the school.
It's like we're putting the service next to the service of the track, right? And we're backing up the back sides of things,
Exactly.
and sharing that, and trying to keep the rest of
And
it,
kids are
you know, very,
dripping
very
wet
aesthetically
just
pristine.
with their diapers.
I love this idea
And everyone,
of,
"It's really nice
I didn't think
to
about it
have
at first, but when you walk in, like you said, having
What's
those
that
pillars
mean?
there, and you're kind of walking into an open area,
Right.
and you're seeing this like magical pool as opposed
that's-
to, as of now, you're walking to a building and then you get to see, you
Right.
know.
Yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
you know, you walk in and it opens
Yeah,
up. Whereas, yeah, 2 is, you know, you're right, it's like a,
You get to see the magic as you're walking up
All right.
the parking lot, which is really cool.
So,
oh, it closed out?
Why can't you
I'm torn between 1 and 3.
Four units back?
So-
I'm between 1 and 3.
The lap pool is 75 feet, because it's 25 yards. So we should have a 25-yard pool.
Hey, what about you? What's some things you liked?
That was like the biggest thing I had.
Me?
Yeah, well, what's
So I would like to see option 4.
option 4? Okay.
well, yeah.
Because,
this
well,
is
we
just-
have one from,
I like all of them.
Right.
But I think, like you said, taking bits and pieces from each
Yeah.
to make an option 4. I personally think that the splash pad in option 3 is too big.
Yeah.
I don't think we need 1,000 square foot splash pad.
Agreed.
No.
I think it's a lot of maintenance, it's a lot of upkeep, potentially, and it's that's a big space.
I think breaking it into 2 sections is probably big enough, either 1 or 2, that's about it, not 3.
But I do like in option 2, how close the baby pool is to the splash pad is to the 0 entry.
Yeah.
But I would like to see the family pool rotated the way it is in option 3.
Right,
And then as Mark suggested, that the lap pool and dive pool be flipped.
Correct,
With the ladder going into the lap pool, that's easier for the knees.
correct.
Yeah.
But one question I do have, because I do like the idea of the event building and the bathhouse offices connected. And I know this is something that probably can be worked out later, but
Yeah.
we're both bathroom people.
I'm a bathroom person. I'm all about the bathrooms.
That's so important.
It's
It
important,
is, it is.
especially for the families.
Yeah.
You know?
I don't care about the families. I
Only because she doesn't want to see it.
don't wanna see, listen, I've seen enough of it as a nurse, you know, I've seen enough of it. But my question is, how do we maintain a bathroom that's gonna be used for drippy, wet people? And then also keep it nice enough for an event center bathroom? To me, it seems like we need to have 2 sets of bathrooms, where perhaps like, for the pool, we have, 4 unisex bathrooms for a quick change or whatever. And then you've got the nicer bathrooms for the event center.
Yeah, and
Or have, rules about using the bathrooms in the event center where you need to be dry.
Whereas my
and I
idea is
say
we
that
save
because-
$750,000 and don't have an event center.
No, we need to have an
No, we
event
need to
center.
have an event
That's not an option. We need to have an event center. Thanks for that though. Because,
I won't let it go.
damn it, Mark, I lost my train of thought.
That was the idea.
No, yeah,
Oh, it'll come back
Yeah,
to me.
I was
Yeah.
knocking you
Yeah.
off the wall.
no, I feel like the
but I
pool.
think that, right,
How can we have
I think
bathrooms
we,
that, clean and have
Yeah,
I
mean,
think
think
we
this is
take
great.
these ideas and we come back to the subcommittee and we kind of say, okay, this is what we like from each of them.
Yeah.
We
Just
I
come back
remember
to
what I was gonna
y'all.
say.
Just to
Right.
I remember what I was going to say. So, another condo community has a community building that is attached to their pool where they share a bathroom. The bathroom's tiled, it's nice, it's fine, and they have to go in through a back door
Yeah.
to access it, which isn't a bad idea, except the people living in that community are all older, mature, and know how to maintain a property.
Yeah.
We have a lot of kids, and they're kids, I mean, they're not gonna maintain it, so that was my point about the bathrooms.
Yeah.
So when I was in,
Yeah, and I think that's gonna come back to your event space program. Like,
Right.
what kind of events do you see in there? Are they seasonal, or is it year-round,
Year round.
right? I mean, year-round makes a lot of sense,
Right,
otherwise it sits there for 9 months, right?
right.
Yeah.
I think that's the thought behind it, is that it would be a year-round space,
Yeah.
it'd be available year-round.
You've got your parking,
Right,
you heat that space.
right,
Maybe there's 2 restrooms that go with the event center that are always with the event center.
Oh, yeah.
They just stay with it.
alright, so,
And you don't, connect. We
Right.
share a wall for plumbing,
sure,
which would save money.
right,
But maybe we don't interconnect, because then there's a whole, let's say someone rents it for an event, that you don't want people going into the pool from the event.
right,
Well, you could through the bathrooms if they're interconnected.
sure, right,
We're not seeing the swim up bar in here?
Yeah.
Kinda missing.
Where's that at?
Where's that at?
okay,
So what, like.
anyways.
One of those floaty ones.
Hey, it could be
So-
juices for kids.
So,
What the hell, like when I was in South Carolina,
obviously-
they had this building, and then this was like the, where you can hang out at, and then the bathrooms were actually outside, and they had like a stone concrete, which were very, very nice. They had like stainless steel walls. You can come in, just power wash everything, drains down, so it was not only, it looks really nice, but it was very efficient to clean. I don't know what they call that, like a stone pebble material that you can just, I don't know if you've ever seen it.
It's
not
probably an
concrete.
epoxy floor
Something like that, yeah.
or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but that's basically how, and I'm not saying we have nice ones now. I'm just saying, they pretty much go in there with a hose and with
Yeah,
stuff
exactly.
and spray down the bathrooms
And
that,
they look very nice, like
Right.
elaborate, except for the fact they're very easy to clean.
but like she, I mean, I think
But
what
that
she,
was actually outside.
but nice
For a
for
pool.
an outdoor pool,
No, this was,
Or
they had
nice
like
for
an
like-
event center. Like
for an
they had-
event center.
They had the event center, like say this is the event center, and then like there was a roof part, but then the bathrooms, in South Carolina is super hot, so you had like these western modern doors that opened up, and you can go to this fully, concreted bathroom that was very, very nice, and it was lit up. And you just walk through this like little atrium, open area to go back into the event center that was like tiled or carpeted somewhere, whatever, like a condo event center looks like.
But if I'm having an event in December, I don't wanna walk through an open atrium to the bathroom.
Okay, so,
But you'll,
Otherwise, yes.
but you'll
let's,
do the event center we have at the community building.
let's,
No, I
um,
won't actually, because if I am having an event and I'm inviting 30 people, there's not enough parking at the community building for those 30 cars.
right,
There's enough parking.
so,
So that's why
I
I
think,
think it's
I
really a
think
good
the
idea to have the event
subcommittee
center
has
here.
some work to do.
Yeah.
Which is good. Here's, obviously, this all hinges on a budget.
Yes.
And we haven't, I see your budget here. I think, thoughts among our financial people at the village are that this might need to be a phased, project. Which of these options, how would it work? And which of these options would probably lend more towards a phased approach? I have a feeling one is kind of,
Yeah, if you break the pools apart, right, then you can certainly do that. The question is, can you get by for a number of years without, let's say, a lap pool?
right,
Right, is it just a family pool? Right, and, call it a slide in the family pool with your baby pool. And then later you come in with the dive and the lap, because they're not connected. And, site plan wise, as long as you can get around the existing facility to build the second phase, let's call it, right, then it would lend itself to that. And then the mechanical building, you would typically build probably the bulk of the building. And then add the pumps later for the next pools.
so would your recommendation be,
Level 600, zero tree
let's just say we
families,
did it
500,
over 2 or 3 years, right?
Transition.
Would we start with buildings?
dive
Would we
pools,
start with
250,
pool?
Splash
Is there
pads,
a-
200.
Typically, you would build, because the health department's gonna require that you have everything to run whichever pool you open, right? So
Okay.
you get forced into, bathhouse,
Right.
mechanicals, and the first set of pools, decks,
Okay,
right? So it's, like if you drew a line in scheme 2 down the green space, except for the mechanical building.
half and
That would be the
half, yeah.
phasing of it.
And we also talked about that the slides could technically be added later on, but they're also not the hugest piece of
they're not.
this.
Right. They're fairly reasonable,
The slide complex is 350,000.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then it's plus the pool that it splashes down in.
Yeah,
Right,
Right,
right. Okay,
yeah.
the
Yeah.
splash
It's-
pad's
So-
about 200,000.
It's difficult to phase,
I know.
a whole pool complex.
Right.
What we would do is find out a way and we would find either low-interest government bonds or loans and take out a 30-year note and do it all at once.
Yeah.
So do you wanna kinda go through some of the proposed
Well,
costs?
we just might not be able to do this.
Sure.
If I go back
If
to
you,
what I said, I'm worried that we won't be able to do this.
What is our?
Okay, that's fine,
I'll ask Vivian.
okay.
You only have those
I know, she said they only did it for one, but they're all about the same.
within 300,000.
Yeah.
I'll walk you through the estimate here, very quickly. So if if you scan down through the, the items, like I said, when you get to the aquatic features and mechanicals.
Okay.
So obviously you see the square footage of water is what drives the price, right? So any of these schemes, I think we could probably squeeze it a little bit and get some more square footage out of it. Is it gonna save you, $500,000? Maybe, right? But we have to be very specific in what we're sharing. Like the splash down of the slide, drop into the family pool, right? You're saving X amount of square footage. You still have increased your family pool by a lot, right? And so that's gonna be really the call is, how far can you squeeze it? How many do you really need in there, et cetera, right? When you get into that final design. I think that makes sense. I think you can also take your lap pool, shallow the one end of it, and pick up additional family pool that's in a separate pool later. So let's say you build on the light end on phase one, find out you're probably a little short on family. When phase two comes on, the second part of your lap pool would help make up for that. Right, so you just need safety valves in case you get surprised. Usually when you build a new pool, everybody comes. Everybody joins. And even adjacent communities, if they don't have pools as nice as what is in yours, they will pay the out-of-community fee to join your pool. Right, so you'll get some of that. That's just what happens. The aquatics consultants that we've used or worked with, there's 3 that we work with, have all that information to help you make intelligent decisions on square footage, and especially if you're looking at phases, right? And so that's kind of a detail down the road, but you can keep that in the back of your mind. And then if you kind of come on down to the buildings, you can see where the buildings and site structure. So those are your 2 big numbers, right? Between that, you're like $3.1 million, pretty quick. The rest of it is site, electrical. There's not a lot of earthwork in here. There's some. The question will be is, the existing pool where, the bottom, has cracked a couple spots. Is that a geotechnical issue? We'll have to look into that to see, right? So we plugged in dollars to just, so it's not a surprise. The main thing on master plan estimates, this is a detailed master plan estimate, is to make sure you have a category that even if the number is wrong, it's not that far off, right? You've got a number for it. The surprise estimates are when you have something that comes up that you don't even have a category for it.
Right.
So it's a complete addition, right, which tends to blow budgets. And then as you kind of get to the bottom, you can see where we're carrying,
is something we can pull.
a design construction contingency of roughly 12%. Well, that's 680,000. I mean, that's a big number, right? So, as long as you stick, real close up top, don't have too many surprises on site, you may not spend, half that. You may spend it all, if you run into a surprise. And then it comes down to how you're gonna construct it. Are you gonna use a construction manager? Or are we gonna hire, a general contractor, like a Patterson Pool, right, who can just do the whole thing turnkey, right, and pay the architects, right, to help administer the job, and in hopes of saving that CM fee, right, that's in here. So we tried to make it worst case in this estimate.
Well, don't we have to put it out for bid?
Yeah, this is gonna have to go out to bid,
We would have to put it
Correct.
out for bid,
It'll have to be bid.
right.
But whether you use a construction manager, right, to do it, or you're hiring directly a general contractor.
Hopefully, we were just going directly to a general contractor.
Right.
Hopefully.
That would, hopefully, right, that would tend to save you
Right.
some dollars.
Yeah.
On that. Municipalities are different, they all do things in different ways. Lately, most people have been doing a CM,
Right.
just because they're in that mode. They do that CM at risk, which, you can ask me my opinion of it, I don't think it's worth it, but, because I think it's all kind of smoke and mirrors, on the CMR approach to it. But, like there's several general contractors, Patterson's one,
Right.
Gutnick is another one, who has, like, Gutnick did turnkey, Athens Pool, complete. They also did Lincoln Pool for City of Columbus that way.
Okay.
And the city, managed that one themselves with their staff person.
Okay.
And Gutnick did a great job
Right.
on it, turned out well.
Patterson did our last one and we didn't have any issues whatsoever,
Who did?
so, Patterson.
Okay, that's right. Oh, yeah,
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 the baby
that's right, yeah. So it's just different methodologies.
Okay.
Yes, it's a public bid.
And you would be the person in control of getting us to the bid
Yes.
process, that's included in all of this?
Yeah, a lot of time, yeah, so you'll see in
Okay.
there, we put in the soft cost, professional service fees, which is the architect, it'd
Right.
be us, the aquatics engineer.
Okay.
The civil engineer.
Okay.
Right, basically put together a team to produce the documents that would get
Okay.
bid.
Okay,
Right.
yeah, cause
A
that's
lot
what
of-
we had the issue with last time that cost us, that we weren't expecting with the grant. And that actually added, if you remember, that's how we found you.
Right, right.
Yes,
And so typically we make this leap. There's like 3 architects in town that have done a lot of pools.
Right.
And usually instead of us leading, it'll flip to the architect leading.
Okay.
Just because of the buildings.
right,
Side. And so we're usually part of the team, architects leading it, they're pulling in the engineers and the aquatic engineer, right? That's how they assemble the team. And so you'd put out an RFP to secure a design consultant group. Interview a couple groups, make your selection, right? And then you move forward.
okay,
All right, and have a budget, right? Because they're all gonna respond to, what's the budget? Is it 1 phase, 2 phases,
Right.
just what is it, right?
right,
And that'll help it. Clearly, you'll save money if you did the whole thing, all at once.
right.
You just will. If you try to break it into 2, I'm a little worried about that.
I think one of the things that we had looked at, and I know I'm going too far in this, but like the pavement project could actually be something that we would do as part of, we have a couple other Valley Road being done, and there's a
Yeah,
chance that
there's,
maybe we
there's,
could do a
there's,
couple of
there's
little
some
things.
savings we could get.
Yes,
Yeah.
like,
I think we talked about that originally,
Yes.
yeah.
Right.
yeah, like would you wanna, like a Goodnick or a Patterson Pools doing the paving? They wouldn't,
No.
They'd sub it out anyway.
They're gonna sub it out and it's gonna cost us a lot more, so that's already, I mean, we'd already looked into, we talked to you about it the last time, we
Yeah.
thought maybe there could be, and we do have a debt limit, so I know we talked a little bit
Yeah.
about that with our finance person, and that we would have to do something to get this number down.
Right, right.
'Cause
And
everything
so-
we pull out actually gets pulled out at plus 10%, because that's the engineering fee.
If
Yeah.
you have, if you separate,
So if you can find $1 million, it's $1 million.
Separate the buildings or combine the buildings, meaning single plumbing, all of that. Is there
Oh,
significant savings or is it? Meaning the event building. and the-
For these size buildings, if you pick it apart, I don't know if you can save money or not. You might. Typically, it's with smaller, it's just as easy just to kind of knock them out. Just have, one group, a general knock it out. Because there's gonna be a pool contractor like a Patterson or an Astro
No, I
that
mean,
does
if
the
you,
pools.
if the event building and the bathhouse as 2 separate buildings versus the other 2 drawings, one and.
Well, you
two
could easily
separate-
phase those. Let's say you put the pool, the bathhouse building in first, and then later you came back and you did the event center. Easily.
What's the savings on having just 2 separate buildings altogether and combining one building?
You're saving the exterior. Like, I'll give you an example. The drive-in park pool we did for City of Columbus. They didn't have to build a bathhouse because it was adjacent to a rec center. So they had to flip the rec center restrooms around a little bit, where they basically added to the restrooms and then had doors that separated. So in the summer, they could lock the interior doors and have X number of restrooms available to the outside. And then in the winter, they just flip it, they'd open those doors up, and that saved them about $500,000 in building type stuff. That made a lot of sense from that end. Your event center, you could also do that later, right? And you just want to reserve enough room, room for it. Let's say, I think what the space is, 2,400 square feet, I think it is maybe, in this one.
Do these,
1,800 square feet. But you might, decide down the road that event center needs to be bigger. And so long as the site plan accommodates putting a bigger, let's say from 1,800 square foot to 2,400 square feet. As long as you can accommodate that, building it later gives you that opportunity to do that.
I think the hard part that you start talking about is, I think that's what the village has done in the past and it doesn't work out well. don't take that wrong, but, you know, when you start saying, and then, you know, this building that would have cost us $300,000 is now $600,000 3 years later, you know, we're not oblivious to that as well. So, I mean, it's great to think that, you know, splitting this apart is a better way to go. There's just gonna have to be some decisions made, you know, what is our debt limit, and if it's only 500,000, what can we knock completely out?
Right.
Because thinking that we're gonna add it may or may not ever happen.
Right, and so, if we.
Our
what I would
$3.4 million
suggest-
community building was 1.6.
Yes, just a couple years
A
later.
couple of years ago, if that would have been bought.
Yeah.
Why would we need a competition lap pool?
We currently have a group that uses it,
Right.
but we could
have a
be,
swim
it could potentially be rental opportunities for the pool.
It could be something, it's also
Is
what
that
it,
a
what,
Is that a plan, though?
what
Is
it
that
gives,
part of the plan?
what it gives you is an adult pool.
I do,
'Cause, yeah.
no, that's not the,
Yeah.
If
Now,
I
does it-
understand that, I'm talking about, our, like,
It's not much different than what we have now.
but are we
But,
gonna
yeah.
bring in more people to
If
come
we-
be, have a competition here and build up concessions, or?
I don't know that'll make money, it makes it, it's the adult pool. Now, you doing 6 lanes instead of 4 lanes, cause I think ours, it might be a 4 lane currently, the width of it. I don't know how much money difference that is, but like, if you don't have, in my opinion, if you don't have a 5-foot adult depth pool, like, I don't know too many adults who wanna go
No,
stand.
I'm not saying
Yeah.
remove it, I'm saying we have it,
Yeah,
but I don't, like, to not have it as a lap pool, is what I'm trying to say.
yeah, well,
Not use it for competition or something, but,
I don't know how much that would
because
generate.
on the thing it says competition pool, so that's why.
Well, I think that's just what it's called, but you're right, cause there is the, competition equipment of $20,000. But $20,000 isn't getting us, I mean, that's the, you know, putting the blocks in and this and that.
To give you an example,
That's not
like
giving us a lot of,
Arlington
savings.
Hastings Pool, exterior pool, has a 4-lane lap pool. They don't run swim meets there. It's strictly for adults who wanna swim laps.
We get that a lot
It's easy,
on Facebook, or do we have that?
so you still provide that.
Okay.
Summer league swimming is typically 6 lanes. And that's why you get forced into that. You don't have to do that.
We have a group that has come
and
in
then the
every year.
nice,
as long as
and the nice thing is with 6 lanes, you can always keep 2 lanes as lap lanes and still have 4 lanes for people like me who wanna be in deep water and standing around talking to people, cause, okay, I don't like doing that, but if I do go to the pool, that's what I do. And I don't go there,
No,
then
it's
I'm
true.
just standing
Yeah.
in water talking to people instead of sitting on a chair. Yeah, that understand. I don't
It just
need to worry
depends on
about
the summer
that.
swim league, right? Summer swim leagues, you know, are, they're just that, they're swimming for 3 months, right? If they're swimmers who are swimming year round, they're at other places,
Right.
They're different facilities.
And I think the hard part is regardless, you're never gonna have more than one swim team use it, because our swim team uses it 5 straight days. So yeah, we get a little bit of revenue, but I think ultimately it's gonna be an adult pool, or if we're crazy busy one day, I mean, maybe you do allow kids in it, you know, you don't wanna.
Well, I don't think you would ever
But if we start, I was just thinking. if
So-
say
there's
no
competitions,
kids,
let's
I'm just saying
Yeah.
the kids are gonna be like,
So I
this is
think we're
boring.
getting in the weeds a little bit right now,
Yeah,
let's,
we are
let's kind of
definitely.
pull this back to the committee. But I do, for the sake of the subcommittee who was not here before, life expectancy of the pool. You know, because if we're gonna put a lot of money into it, we wanna make sure, you know, what are you seeing? And I know you told us what you saw, so.
Yeah, what we've experienced, and you can, and I talked to the city of Hilliard, like, they're one of the first communities that put in a stainless pool, stainless wall pool. That pool was a 50-meter pool they built in 73, 72. That pool is still operating. Now, they've replaced all the equipment, but the pool structure is still solid. So most of the pools that we do, we'll bid them as concrete with stainless steel as an alternate to keep the stainless, to keep the stainless guys honest, right? And so the stainless guys will get competitive, and they'll always usually beat out concrete, or it's within a close proximity that you would select the stainless steel alternate anyway. But that's why you see a lot of stainless pools around Central Ohio. Patterson was one of the first ones to do a stainless pool. They built that one in Hilliard back in '72.
Okay.
They built this one originally, Patterson.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was the, well, yeah.
If, if I were to take this group on a field trip to see some of your other pools,
Yes.
which ones would you recommend us see?
You know, in our kickoff meeting, we
Uh-huh.
have the list
Yes.
in
Yes.
there.
Yeah.
Any of those.
Any of those? Okay,
Any of those.
okay. I've been to Athens already.
Yep.
I got a tour
Yeah.
from
What's-
my.
And
what's
how
two of the
much just
closest
to-
ones,
How
just
much,
off the top of
just
your
to rebuild our pool?
What's
So
that?
how much just to rebuild our pool? To pull our existing pool out and rebuild it? It'd be an interesting question.
Well,
Just
you
reconcreting it.
would, because the pool number here buys you the pool. It buys you the equipment. But it doesn't buy you the building, and it doesn't buy you the deck,
Yeah.
and all that stuff, right?
Well, I'm
So-
just saying, let's say I wanted the pool to be exactly what it was 50 years ago. I just want it now, but I want all the concrete, I want everything pulled out, pull it
Yeah.
all out, make a crater, fill it back in exactly how it is. I want it to be brand new.
My high dive bag for my slide bag.
Well, no, I'm just, what we're looking at here is about 7 million. We only have about a $4 or $5 million borrowing limit for the village. So a lot needs to get changed before this is possible, barring someone in the village winning the lottery and saying, here's $10 million, I would love
Did
for
you
you to have
play?
a pool. No, I didn't.
Okay, well, somebody better start.
Yeah.
You still have to don't you still have to do something about like
The buildings and stuff would all
Yeah.
still need to be done.
Yeah, the buildings would have to be redone.
Building has to be replaced.
But I
just
think,
because-
I think part of it just being, just so these guys are aware, they know, I think it's, I know exactly what he's asking. If the concrete is buckling, we know that. We know that the pump rooms, so if we were to get all new, let's call it electrical,
Yeah,
plumbing, and rip out the bottom of the pool and the sides and redo the sides and keep our surrounding deck, cause it's not horrible.
Yeah.
Like, listening to what he's saying,
yeah.
what does something like that look like? I'm just saying replace the building, I mean, we could fix.
I bet the premium right now is about $1 million.
Okay. But that's not with the buildings, that's just the pool,
Correct.
yeah,
Right. I mean, like if we took these same units that things are costing today,
right,
and you applied it to your old pool,
right,
the difference between, you know, replacing your old pool as is, and trying to keep all that kind of stuff, to this is probably $1 million.
okay.
So not actually a lot at all.
Yeah. So,
And then knock the
and it may
buildings
be
down.
less than that, right? Just because, you know, the pool.
Because you're still just digging up backhoes and
Exactly.
pouring concrete.
Yeah.
And doing that's expensive, no matter what you
Yeah,
do.
the mayor of Bexley, he and I had this conversation early on. He says, well, that pool contractor told me it cost $1.3 million to build that pool. I go, that's true. That's the pool.
Right,
Not the deck, not the mechanical building, not the restrooms to meet code, not all the furniture, not all the fencing, all that stuff, right? It's everything else. So when you look at this estimate and you see where your two biggest numbers are, right? It's the pools and it's the buildings. And once you get past that, the rest of it, you can certainly tweak. Like, we can squeeze all these decks down to, minimal width, right? And your chaise lounges are sitting in the lawn areas, right? Which is fine.
which is what we have now, and
Yeah.
I think a lot of us do prefer that they're in the
Yeah,
grass.
it's cool. So you'll nickel and dime it, but it won't get like millions out,
Right,
right? You
But I
may get
don't-
a couple
yeah.
$100,000 out.
yeah. I'm with you.
And landscape, you could do that over time if you want.
Well, and I think that was part of what we were looking at. I mean, I really do think just nixing, and I don't mean nixing permanently, but a couple little things, like the parking lot, I'm not saying not do it, but in a different project, the fencing is something that the one side needs done, and I'm not saying it's not gonna look beautiful, but the other side, if we had to, I mean, if it means getting it done or not,
Yeah.
we'll keep the old fence
Yeah.
as much as we can.
Like if we just repaired the old fence, painted it black.
Exactly, and again, that's not,
Right.
and, you know, you
It'll
you
save some
hate,
money.
yeah, you don't wanna talk about having a $7 million pool with a crappy fence, but if it means getting a
Right.
pool, I think there's some things that this group will be able to talk through and say, these are
Yeah.
requirements and these are things we can deal with,
And the splash pad is an easy add later.
Right.
right,
You can add splash pads,
right,
very easily. It's the pool water
right,
and the slides, right, the stuff that requires the mechanical, right, that
Right.
drives the mechanical systems. And so if you concentrated on that,
right,
and you minimize decks, and let's say the event center came in later, right, we reserved the spot for it, but it's built
Right.
later. right? Then you could get this thing whittled down where you could probably hit that
Oh,
that
yeah.
budget.
Yeah, just looking at the numbers, I mean, I feel like there's certain things that you could knock out quite easily. You know, the first thing I think of is knock out the slide and the splash pad, and then I realize, no, don't have a heart attack. But then I realize you almost have to have one or the other. I feel like at that point, you're taking away the pool fun to it.
Right.
Like, and I'm not saying which one is better than the other, but, you know, I'm older, my kids are older, so it's not something that's important to me, but
Right.
it's important for those memberships.
Right, yeah. And so the public meeting part of that,
Right.
to help, refine that program, a lot of times, you know how we had all the elements in the, the first meeting, where we had all the pictures of
Yeah.
the various components, right? The committee would say, well, here's the components that we think we can afford,
Right,
and there's some that are some either ors,
right.
right? And then we have to go up and basically put stickies on it,
Which
what
one's
they
better?
prefer. And that might, help you determine, is it a splash pad or is it a slide, right? That is your feature, right, going in. And that's usually the first part of the pool design process, right? To help formulate that, that program beyond what, what the committee has done to date. It's like the confirmation with the public. Now, sometimes you get a curveball in there, but most times, the community is right on track with it. That's how, like Bexley, we had to do that, because they couldn't afford everything either. And that's why their slides ended up being a run out
Right,
versus dropping in the pool. So,
which doesn't sound like fun, just saying.
it's not as
not,
fun,
The two basics thing.
but it's still.
Because you
it's
get to
still
the end
fun.
and you're just sitting on the ground and you have to stand up and walk off.
Yeah, I'm out, yeah.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound like a slide.
Your bathing suit.
Exactly,
You wanna do it underwater, right?
yes.
Yeah,
It's
Cool.
the logistics of these things.
so I'm hearing a scheme 4,
Oh, no, go ahead. We'll
and
take
I'm
some.
hearing a budget, right, that we kind of back into by what you think we would want to bond, right?
Right.
Later.
Yeah.
And so that's scheme 4, we probably take the pool and where we think we
Right.
could squeeze it, or pools,
Put
we
the
would
patio
squeeze
in.
it. What's that?
Put the patio in.
He likes the
Correct.
patio.
You like
Maybe
the
the
patio
event center
too.
stays off, right? Maybe the event center is a different phase, right? And just concentrate on the aquatics. And then you guys can discuss in committee, what are those features, especially the comp pool, like is it 6 lane or is it a 4 lane? Right, that could save a chunk of money.
Yep, okay.
I'll give it this place right here.
Can you possibly send that electronically so we can upload it to the
This
website?
area right
Yes.
here.
Here's a great idea. JP, what do you think about this? This house that's here, we
Yes.
could just clear it out.
Steamroll it.
That's his
We could
house.
just steamroll, it's his house. We could just steamroll it and just extend it.
Parking area right there.
This house right there.
You can turn in the restroom, the event center, maybe.
Oh, the event center.
We're gonna turn that into the event center?
There you
That's a plan,
go.
thanks.
Oh, wait, that's a great idea.
Great idea, thanks JP.
There you go.
It's quite the donation.
So I'm here for solving problems.
Yeah. We've got these in a PDF. We'll push the button to the committee and then we'll sit,
Perfect,
right? And wait till you get back to us.
okay.
Oh, I don't think it'll take these guys long. I think they're ready.
Yeah.
We want it all.
This is like.
Yeah, I know. It's
Here's the catalog.
Do you guys have any, and we probably talked about this a little bit, and I talked to Morpsey about, some ideas that they may have for grants and things like that. Do you guys ever come across them with other clients that you're aware of? If you ever do, could you send them?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you're seeing more grants and funding for parks and recreation type stuff.
Right,
Just because,
right.
people need to get out, right?
Walking paths.
Walking paths.
Told
yeah.
ya.
We do see that, yeah.
Yeah.
People more healthy.
Okay.
Yep, we certainly can.
Yeah, if you guys see anything, just let us know.
Yeah, our planners typically are the ones that are always running across that. Like right now, we're working on the Southern Ohio stuff, right? Because they have that grant funding for planning for Southern Ohio.
Right,
Which,
right.
down there is it's a free-for-all down there. And so they're trying to get some good planning in place. And that was all grant funded, 100%,
Gee.
Nice.
which is unheard of.
Can you tell them to call me?
Yeah, we'll sit right. Yeah.
Cool.
Call your congressman.
I will do that. I actually,
Joyce
I mean,
Beatty.
that's one of the things we can do.
Yeah,
Joyce Beatty, Ohio's third, is the district and the congressperson you want.
We got a couple, we have a couple good contacts with that.
Okay,
cool.
okay.
Thank you.
So is that helpful?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Okay,
Yep, absolutely.
okay. Yeah, we knew there'd be a scheme 4. There always is.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It's a
Yeah.
great-
Because it's just,
Yeah, but you took what we asked for and you put it all on paper and now we'll decide what we can't live without and what we can
And what we would
Later.
suggest too is that you keep all these, right?
Yeah.
So when you do start the process, right, if it's not the team that we're on, they at least know where you've been,
Right.
what you've looked at,
Right.
right? And how you crafted your program going forward. Right?
Wonderful. Great. Thank you.
Alright, Jason,
Great,
so
thank you.
where's our field trip?
Field trip.
Yeah, we're gonna,
trip.
we're gonna have to get that worked out.
Jason, what did you say Athens full cost?
7,
Seven?
yeah, but that was 4 years ago. I think now theirs would be 11, so, there's a lot of similarities.
Yeah.
Between Athens Pool and this.
So,
No, we're not. No. We do need to go over one or two other pieces of business. Mostly, the, rules for the pavilion.
okay.
So, hey,
You guys ready for part 2 of this?
all right.
Yes.
All right, so, thank you guys very much. And I'll look for your email. All right, so, there's not a ton to get into tonight as far as the rest of this committee meeting goes, but, we want to talk about rules for the pavilion. I was, sent some, I was not sent what's currently there, but I was sent, one, it says, shelter rules, use of the shelters at your own risk. Users are responsible for damage to the shelter. Use of large inflatables, bounce house, etc. are prohibited. No smoking, vaping, illegal substances, no alcohol, glass containers. Throw all trash in provided receptacles. Please be considerate of neighbors when playing music. Now, this was just a recommendation. I think this was a pre-made sign.
No, those were some of the ones that we'd put,
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
so now it's just a matter of tweaking what else we wanna add to it.
okay.
Their hours.
There are no hours on here.
So,
Close it, or I think.
close it, yeah,
Yeah.
whatever the
But
other
it
one
should be
says,
on here.
dusk.
Yeah,
Does the other one say dusk? I think the other one
I
says
believe it
dusk.
does.
Yeah,
Can I also make a recommendation that the signs be larger,
yes,
much larger?
that's what we had talked about, and
Much,
maybe
much,
even 2.
much
Big
larger.
ones.
Yep.
I think the problem is the company that we order from, the largest that we can get is 18 by 24, so we may have to find another company. Cause that was a
Wonder if we know anyone that
problem.
makes signs.
I don't know.
Yeah,
anyone
do you
that
know,
makes
do you guys
signs,
do
but-
anything like
I don't
that?
know anyone.
Okay, well, can you look into
Wish
it?
I had a
Because
connection.
Yeah,
18 by 24, I believe, is
Yeah,
large.
we-
Hey!
yeah, we can do that. So,
Sorry.
I'm fine with the no alcohol, I'm a little, the glass containers, I don't know, how do you?
You don't need glass
I don't need glass containers.
Yeah, I think the biggest part is you've got concrete floors, somebody does it, and somebody else walks in there without shoes on, they don't know that somebody else just dropped a glass 2 weeks ago.
Okay. Neighbors playing music, use of large inflatables, bounce houses, etc. prohibited. What happens in the event that MPCA decides to do something over there?
I think as
Do
long as it's
we-
on the other side, I don't care, I think it's just, I mean, I
Define
don't
the other
know, like over by the basketball court, cause this
Okay.
is going at this is just the shelter rules. So this is just none over by the shelter, you gotta remember there's somebody's house that's also right there as well. So I think it was just more of a precaution of having that type of stuff. I know we have an issue with our insurance with having
Right.
those things.
Do we have
So,
music?
We did too.
I'm sorry, what'd
Know
you say?
about music, maybe?
It says, please be
And
considerate
also
of neighbors
4
when
days
playing
shadow.
music.
Yeah.
That's good.
Anything we're missing? Hours, I mean, that closes at dusk.
Same
Is
with
the,
the basketball.
is the pavilion available for renting? Out
So-
tournaments?
So the thought right now is that this year, we're gonna kinda leave it as it is and talk about it for next year. There's a lot of, there's a lot of financial things that go along with that, and that we have to have staff that does it. If someone's in there and they're not supposed to be, then we gotta get our police over there. So, you know, how much of that can we take on as a village, and how much of it is, you know, do we just first come, first serve kind of thing, so.
I think I think part of the thought
There's
is-
arguments for both sides,
Yeah, there's
right?
definite, like, one person had brought up the fact that if you do wanna have your birthday party and you wanna do it Saturday at 11 a.m. and you invite grandma and grandpa and you get there and there's somebody there, that's the only reason that we kinda wanna do it. And if we do it, I think it will only be Saturdays and Sundays, in my opinion. Because that would be the busiest days. But then the thought is, this is only 6 picnic tables. So it's, how many parties do we really think are gonna happen? I don't know. We have had one phone call for somebody asking whether or not they had to rent it or not, and that's the only thing that and my understanding is we've only had one phone call, even asking to rent it. So I think it's just kind of sit back and, I hate to say sit back and just wait and see what happens, cause it's a horrible thing to say. But I think it is, yeah.
It's so new and.
But I
about to be
also, I mean,
fall
I
and
did do
nobody-
quite a bit of research with like Westerville, they do Saturdays and Sunday, or actually, I can't remember what all they do, they charge $25 and then they reimburse the $25 and da-da-da-da-da, and that just sounds like a nightmare.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're gonna rent and charge and do all that, we're not giving it back. I'm just being, and I'm not saying that we need to, but there has to be some sort of something, and maybe we do $10.
Right.
But then are you gonna rent all day for X amount of dollars, you're gonna do 4-hour increments, 2 hours, so there's a lot more that, you know, you hate to start doing that if, then they don't show up and they don't care about their $10 or $25 and now nobody's able to use it because they think somebody's renting it. So there's pros and cons to all of it, I don't know that there's not a right answer.
Right.
It's just, as of right now, it's not, have you seen many people down there? I mean, I know people have been sitting under it, I've seen people, but like parties or anything, you're closer to it than I am.
Okay.
Plus, if we have another space,
I think it's so new, people
So-
just stare at it like.
I know, like,
So-
what is this?
so-
It's too nice to touch, all of us are like, ooh, I can't go in there.
So the only additional thing is the hours from,
I think it's dusk, yeah,
yeah, that's the only additional piece, I think,
okay,
at this point. And then if we decide,
yes,
and then if we decide that we're doing a reservation, we can put a second sign up.
Yeah.
That talks
but
about
can you give me a
reservation.
price for
Yeah.
doing something like that and how big, because she is not wrong, and I would tell you that if we could, I would like to duplicate the other one.
Okay,
And it would just add another one
yep,
over there that's bigger. I mean, we could leave multiple signs in different corners. I mean, there's nothing wrong with having another
yeah,
one.
I mean, yeah,
But
we
a
can
bigger
do,
one,
Signs at the
I mean, you saw
basketball
the
court.
soggy dollar sign is metal,
yeah,
so
yeah, if you can find out
Yeah.
something, just something
can do it.
bigger, that would be awesome.
I can do it. Okay, just because we have some pool members here, I do wanna get some opinions from
Go
some
for it.
people. So there's been discussion around, membership and things like that. So some things that we've talked about, with various members of this committee are, do we start selling memberships in January? And allow, payments. So, you know, as long as it's paid in full before before the pool opens. So I guess I'd like to hear your thoughts on that, if you think that would help with memberships at all, so.
I think it would help with families. Especially if you've got 5 kids and you're 2 adults type thing.
What did you just say? I was-
About making payments for your
Okay.
membership
Yeah.
rather than paying it all at once.
I don't know.
As
I
long as
mean,
it's
if
paid in
it's
full
not
by
a,
the
if it's not a
date.
hassle, I don't see why not.
Yeah, I think our software that we have will do it for us, that we can spread it out over so many payments.
I would do it.
Okay,
Yeah, I think it's definitely,
That's how I pay for Zev's camp, otherwise I couldn't do it.
right. So,
I
I mean, I
Lot
think,
more than 100 and whatever.
right. And I mean, we're talking only 2 for, well, Zev's camp, I don't know what that is, what that costs, but, you know, it's, you know, a lot of people are on a budget.
Yeah.
The other thing we've talked about are, so it's been a little bit of a logistical nightmare with memberships after the pool opened. So we're trying to think of ways to encourage people to sign up before the pool opens, so that it's more of the memberships are handled by Barb in the office rather than the front desk staff. Because there's a learning curve every year, even if it's the same software, to get them up to speed, and we're just missing some things in there. We're getting frustrated members. So one thought is, do we change the early bird registration to a renewal discount instead? So if you're renewing, you get the discount, but you have to renew so far be, maybe 2 or 3 weeks before the pool opens, as opposed to doing it by April 15th, whatever that date we normally do. Any thoughts on that?
I like that.
I think if you do it that, and then also for new members, if they do it, you still keep the early bird.
For what?
For new members that are just now showing up for it.
Still do the early bird.
Still do early bird,
Still do
but,
early bird, but if you're a member, you can get a renewal rate as well.
And at least doing that,
Complicating things.
yeah.
oh, we're complicating it for sure, but then you're giving people the opportunity to become members knowing that they'll get a renewal next year.
Right.
Versus just throwing that out and getting rid of the people that didn't do, I mean, I'm a member, so it benefits me, I'm just thinking about the people that aren't members right now.
Sure.
Now not getting an
Well,
early bird.
But think that we've also added the fact that you can pay over several months, so,
So why add that extra piece of the renewal if you're gonna allow people to pay early bird prices starting in January? Then why wouldn't you just leave it at that? I mean,
I don't
what's
think I
the
understand.
benefit, what's the benefit of having a renewal rate by a certain date if you're already doing the early pay scheduling? And then you're not offering new members an
Uh-huh.
early bird discount, like, there's too many moving pieces?
Yeah. So my original thought was that it's a renewal, if you renew, you get the discount, and then we can extend payments over, you could do a 3-month plan, you could do 6-month plan, whatever you wanna do. But we could start selling them in January if we, it just allows people to make lower payments, right? So,
No, I
Oh,
get that, I think it's a good
I guess,
idea, but let's
so
say
what's-
I'm not a member,
yes,
but I wanna get a membership for next year, and I want the payment plan starting in January, but I don't get an early bird discount.
right. The early bird, well, yeah, that early bird would go away, and it would just become a renewal discount.
And then following year.
So one of the things that I can see now with the software, because we're in year 2, is who's renewed their membership and who hasn't, and we do have a good drop-off of renewals. There's always gonna be some renewals that drop off, there's people that move or whatnot, relocate, situations change within the family, but trying to increase our pool membership, is one of the things that I'm trying to accomplish here.
It also incentivizes the people that stay with us.
But how
Yes,
are you promoting those that haven't joined to join
So-
if they're not being offered a discount?
Well,
yeah,
I think if you, though, maybe if you offer, maybe it'd be easier if you offer the renewal, maybe a little bit larger discount being nothing too significant, but,
Say
$20
$50 off or something.
Okay.
whatever, off.
Cause it's gonna go up every
That
year,
way,
right?
you're gonna renew it,
We'd
I'm
have
gonna
to
renew
discuss
in
it.
January, I'm gonna get my extra $20 off. New member, keeping the early bird for new members, so they still do to get their discount. So then they're gonna be pressured to also do it before, cut it off. I mean, the other thing you could do would be after such and such a date, which is, I guess,
Boom.
the early bird, it would go up, but, which is the early bird, but.
well, we
Or
could do.
after, maybe after the pool.
I mean, there's
opens.
tiered pricing too, where you start it, every 2 to 3 months, the price goes back up for renewing your membership. In January is where you get your cheapest option and you can pay it over the longest amount of time. In March, it might go up, another $10, but then you have 4 months to pay it off, March, April, May. You have 3 months to pay it off. And come the beginning of May, it's full price. All that can be programmed into it pretty easily,
Just using Square.
yeah,
I think that would be.
okay, okay. I
Do we
like
know
that.
we're giving breaks for residents as opposed to a non-resident?
We only give breaks to residents, we do not give rates to non-residents. And we honestly have a lot of non-residents that are members of the pool. If you don't know, we put flyers at the elementary schools here, we do put flyers that go home with them. And I've noticed that in the communities all around us, especially now more south of us, over here, we have a lot of members, from that area.
I think
So
it's so expensive to get into some of the other pools.
Yeah.
it is, and we're trying
Into
to,
Westerville, if you're not a resident in Westerville.
right, Westerville's prices went up quite a
Crazy.
bit this last year, yeah.
It's crazy.
But what I keep hearing from our residents are, that's where my friends go, and, they have better options,
That's
so,
what my kids did. I mean,
Yeah.
my kids, I used to join that pool for that reason.
right.
But again, going back to this,
I know, this is,
my kids were like, our pool's boring
yep,
when they were little. You know, my friends are all going there because
Mm-hmm.
when you look at this, it's really sad.
I know, it
I'm not
is.
gonna lie. It's-
Well, and if you looked at Westerville's old pool, it looked
I
a lot
know,
like
it was-
that.
I know.
Yeah, the aquatic center that they have looked a lot like this.
Mm-hmm.
So honestly, I wonder if Northland Pool is gonna make it much longer.
Same thing there, but
You know, from what I'm hearing, their expenses are going up. They don't really have the same financial base that we do, so,
everybody that I knew that used to go there, no longer.
right. So, I mean, there's a real possibility that if they go under, we get their members. So, okay. That was really all I had. Was there anything, Tiffany, that I forgot?
Yeah, I think.
I don't think
I
so.
wasn't getting my question across properly. What
Yeah.
I wanted to know was,
Is there cost savings just doing the building separately?
not separately like in a phase, separately like
Oh, you're
two
talking,
buildings
Yes,
versus one building,
right.
is what I was trying to ask.
Yeah. I
The difference, how much money would you save, because that cost is for option two, which is two separate buildings.
Correct.
I think Jesse, you
My
need to
question
ask.
is to have if you did number one, or on Ward 3, where it's one building.
Cause all the
Right.
plumbing and stuff will be done.
That's what you said, mentioned right
Right.
from the beginning.
Right.
Can you request to get option 3?
Plus, it's silly, I mean, if you think about it, it's less walls.
Do what with it?
Cost.
The
Oh, the cost of it?
out for option 3.
Yeah.
Because it has the buildings together.
I'll ask
Yeah,
them.
that's-
I'll
that's
ask what the
right.
difference is,
Because I know
buildings and site structure. I
I
got it. So 19, 20, 21, I'm gonna ask what the difference in price would be if we did it as option 3
Yeah.
or option 2. Well, this was 2, so,
Yeah.
yeah, 1 and 3 are basically the same.
Yeah.
Cool. I'd love to go look at other pools. I think I need to
Yeah.
contact them and see when we could go. But I would imagine Saturdays or Sunday, would that work best for
Those
you?
would be the best phase for me.
Okay, what about you guys? Yeah?
After I'll put, just
Huh?
on cloudy days, preferably.
Yeah.
I would try to arrange it in the morning before our pool opened, so that we would not interrupt our pool time.
Graduation this, Saturday.
It's not gonna be this Saturday.
Congratulations.
It's not gonna be this Saturday.
JP, finally!
Cool, and then,
JP, so proud of you.
and then, do you, subcommittees?
it.
Do we do public notices for subcommittees as well? Okay, we're gonna have to find that out. So if we have to do public notices, then yeah, all right. Let's figure out when we can do our next meeting, and then, we'll figure out what we need to do in-house to get that going, so. All right, anything else? JP, David?
I
We're
have
good?
nothing. This is
Okay, I move to adjourn.
Moved in second.
All right, thank you. Stop.